Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday in America. Well, it's a new day, and the FAA and pilots across America don't seem to be getting any better. If you're joining us on video in just a moment, we're going to roll a clip for you. Another near miss at this time at Chicago's Midway Airport, where a Southwest airliner was attempting to land. A private jet decided to cross the runway just in front of the plane. Here's the clip. Unbelievable that this is constantly what we're dealing with now, it seems, in America. We get on planes thinking they're safer than cars, but those statistics are soon going to start to turn with these unqualified folks flying aircrafts and working in air traffic control towers. It seems this incursion was on the private jet, which was being operated by FlexJet, a private jet charter company, crossing the runway without the clearance, making that 737, that Southwest 737 go around, holds up to 180 passengers. So great on those pilots on that Southwest plane. For evading what could have been yet another aviation disaster, the third one in a month. So great on those guys. The Biden IRS, folks, caught leaking taxpayer information of over 400,000 Americans, including President Trump, as leftists are now suing to stop DOGE over alleged privacy concerns. It doesn't really make much sense. 405,000 taxpayers' information was leaked under Joe Biden. Now, conservatives, folks like you and I, what are they looking for? We're the ones who pay the taxes. We're the ones who don't evade the taxes. The ones that you should be looking into are these illegals who don't pay taxes, and these Democrats who are on the payrolls of military industrial complexes and getting kickbacks. That's what they're so terrified about. They're terrified that Elon Musk is going to get to the bottom of where they're really making their money, because it's not that $174,000 congressional salary or that $200,000 salary over in the Senate. They're terrified, folks. Our guest today is Tony Shaffer. He's the president of Project Sentinel. Great guest of the show, a great friend of the show. We have him on often. He's also a newly elected county commissioner. We're going to be taking up a lot of issues today. 9/11, Tony was a whistleblower. 9/11, the JFK files, the Epstein files. Pam Bondi told us the files were on her desk last week. What is she holding back? What needs to be declassified? Jeffrey Epstein was a private citizen. What's there to declassify? What's the holdup? Why don't we have these documents, Miss Attorney General? You told us they were on your desk, ready to go last week. Well, we're ready to see them. We're going to take all this up with Tony Shaffer, president of Project Sentinel. Tony, it's great to have you back on the show. Booking you,
Thanks,
I think, is harder than booking Donald J. Trump, and I'm talking about President Trump. You're a very busy man. So now that we've got you, I'm going to use every bit of time I've got with you.
Sure.
I want to begin with first everything that's going on inside the government, the deep state that still seems to be lingering a little bit. Congresswoman Anna Paulino Luna of Florida is taking issue with Pam Bondi, Attorney General Pam Bondi, sending out tweets asking her why. Last week, she said she has the Epstein files ready on her desk, ready to declassify. The JFK files, which President Trump apparently within his first week said were declassified. Now, a month later, we still don't have the JFK files, and a week later, we don't have the Epstein files. What's going on?
You got me, because I recognize the importance of just getting it all out and being done with it. There's other areas. There's the Roswell issues, which I think we're going to learn a lot about. 9/11 issues. There's a range of things, and I understand the need to kind of put them in order. Don't throw them all out. I understand there needs to be kind of you put it out, you let people analyze it, they get over it, go through everything, and then you go to the next thing. I get that, but to say that it's on your desk and then silence, I can speculate why, John. I think there's probably some really bad news regarding our own U.S. government intelligence community associations.
Say it ain't so, Tony.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think some names on there are going to be from some very well-known intelligence leaders. I think there's some names from the conservative side, and so I think that may. I'm speculating. I have no inside information, but there's two people who can release that list instantly. It's either Kash Patel or Pam Bondi. Each of them have access to it and can release it. So this is something they should do and just be done with it as soon as possible.
So before we go into what your speculation on maybe what might be on the Epstein list, this is from Polymarket. Now, Polymarket's one of these online gaming sites, gambling sites, where you can bet on politics and what you think is going to happen. This was just from a few hours ago. Jay-Z is now listed as the #1 suspect on the Epstein list. 70% chance he's on it. Highly interesting. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon has also risen to become the #7 suspect, which is also very interesting from his part, because this is a man who I think debanked Kanye West. So if he's on there, sort of interesting having his cake and eating it too. So barring those two folks, what do you think is in there? Before the show, we were talking a little bit. I am under the impression that there's nothing national security in the Epstein files, just a few names of people who may have went to his island on his plane, been associated with him. What is in there that is so privy to national security? Do you think that would cause a delay?
Well, let me ask you a question. How do you think Epstein became a billionaire?
Well, it was mass manipulation. It was lies. It was deception. And we find out
I think it was our government. No, I think it was our government. I think our government's paid him a lot of money to do really evil things on behalf of the intelligence community. So I think that's going to be a big revelation. Again, I'm speculating. I have no insider information here, John. I'm just saying I've seen this movie before. So, you put people in there like John Brennan, I don't know. You had a couple of folks in there. I think George Tenet was no saint. You put people in there who have no scruples or ethics, and Katie barred the door. So I think that's secondly, as some of the names we're talking about here, I think we're going to come to find that they're very senior business leaders, Hollywood leaders, as well as I think some Republicans are on that list that they're going to have a hard time explaining. Well, there's no explaining it. So but one of the things I think is going to be most, even if we know it to be true, which I think most of us do, President Clinton being on that list is going to be ground shattering, because a lot of Democrats have been in denial. So I think that's going to be something else really, I think, affects the public's opinion about a lot of things as soon as it comes out. I think it's going to come out.
Going down the rabbit hole a little bit more, since you've got us started halfway down the hole, we might as well continue to go. What kind of work could he have possibly been doing for the government, for foreign agencies? His companion, Ghislaine Maxwell, her father, very influential overseas. What's your thoughts? What could he have been doing?
So are you familiar with the term brownstoning?
No.
All right. So brownstoning is a form of honeypot. Honeypots, spies, we're all taught to honeypots. You basically find a really attractive woman, you match her up against a high roller, general, senior government official. She's all gaga for him, gets him into bed. He's married, so he's compromised. Well, that's nothing compared to brownstoning. Brownstoning is the ultimate rabbit hole, to use your term. John, what they do is they get you in a honeypot, and that's not good enough. No. That honeypot, that female then says, hey, I've got this really cute teen who wants to sleep with us. And she's probably 15, 12, 15, 16. And then you get that on video and they own you. That's what was going on. And that's what I think they're most afraid to come out, because you know what? I think they got videos of all this stuff. If they seized everything Epstein had, they've got the videos. Just saying.
That's disgusting. I mean, the picture.
I'm just telling you.
No. I understand. I mean, the picture of Bill Clinton in the high heels and blue dress was not something that was just drawn out of nothing, in my opinion. I mean, that's something that had to have been reenacted. But the question is, I mean, if those things are on tape, Tony, are they things that will ever come out? I mean, are they things that we'll ever hear about, or are they things that'll just go into the big black hole of deep statery that we just never hear from again?
It's up to Donald Trump and Pam Bondi, and I'd like to believe they're going to have the courage of their convictions and do the right thing and get it out. They need to get it out. So
now, why was a deal not made? Before we move on to this, because this is a topic I think that 5 years ago nobody knew who nobody, but a lot of people didn't know who Jeffrey Epstein was. Now we get Ghislaine Maxwell. He allegedly kills himself after we find out he hung out with some of the most prominent people in the world. Why did they not try to pull Ghislaine Maxwell? I mean, why did they not try to squeeze her a little bit more to get some information? She's got nothing to lose. He's dead. She's in jail for a very long time.
Yeah, I can only speculate. I don't think they need her to squeeze her. I think they got everything they need. I think they've got the client list. They've got the other co-conspirators. I think her incarceration, her conviction and incarceration is just symbolic. She has said, and I believe, I agree with her, she's a proxy for Epstein. People are blaming her but she, as much as anything, it's true. And the people who actually paid for him to do what he did and were involved in his wrongdoing, they're still out there. And again, that's why I think the list needs to get out.
This is insane. I want to move on to the JFK files. Another thing. Sure. I talk to Roger Stone about this all the time. He's written books on it. Everyone's dead. If he was killed by the government, I think we all believe he was, and no, he was killed by the U.S. government. Everyone's dead. The man who presumably killed him is probably dead. The way that the method that was used to kill him is highly outdated. What has been the delay on this? I mean, President Trump, started to declassify his first time around. Now, 4 years later, again, we still don't have these 2,400 documents that are apparently hidden somewhere.
So the Warren Commission, like the 9/11 Commission, was a complete sham. They were there to cover up and suppress evidence, not to highlight it. And it was all about a narrative. I would argue, John, the techniques for establishing a narrative that were established by the Warren Commission were used again by the 9/11 Commission.
Wow.
And to your point, I think that there's certain names, a name that we both know, Bush. I think there's a name Bush involved in the Kennedy assassination.
Wow.
I think that's going to be an issue. I think there's a lot of narratives that will be shattered by the release. I think that's what it is. Because at this point, to what you said, I think everybody's pretty much dead. They just had 2 days ago.
Yeah.
The FBI agent who was on the Lincoln with Kennedy tried to get up on there. He died. So there's really nobody left of any consequence who would be hurt by the release. I think it's all about changing certain perceptions of certain people. I think there's two presidents are going to go down very badly in history, George Bush and Bill Clinton. I think it's going to be really bad for both of them.
By the way, that guy you mentioned, I think you said he lived to like 98, but knowing the way the government operates, I'm surprised he lived that long, Tony, knowing the way the government makes people disappear into the into the thing. It's really, really mind-blowing to me how we live in this country. And I constantly say this on the show, Tony, we're just played with mass deception and lies. Everything that seems to be told to us, has been told to us in the past, is a lie.
Exactly.
I mean, who killed Abraham Lincoln? Now we have to go back and we have to question how was Abraham Lincoln killed? If we find out that JFK was killed by, in fact, our own government, it makes you question, did we put a man on the moon, Tony? What else were we lied about throughout the course of history? Now, I asked a friend of ours, Russ Tice, this, and he said,
Russ.
No. Now, I want to get your take. When we do finally get these documents, do you think inside these documents, the JFK files, there'll be someone named, an actual name, a tactic used, an X, whatever, somebody that it's written in plain, clear sight, not for us to decipher, X so-and-so killed JFK?
So what we're going to come find is military orders and dispatches. Very rarely are names specifically listed. For example, when I was an operative, I signed everything in an alias, in a pseudonym. I don't want to give it out. It's still classified. But so all my documents were actually signed. If I did a report, I signed in my pseudonym. I didn't even sign as Tony Shaffer. When I was somewhere else, I would have a cover for status or cover for action. Cover for status, like when I went to Afghanistan, I think everybody knows my deployment alias was Chris Stryker. That's been publicly released. It's like, yeah, it's out there. So, and then when I did something else, I would have a cover for action and an alias that matched the cover for action. So what part of the challenge is, if this was run like a real intelligence operation, which I believe it was, you've got to decipher who is what. And that's not an easy thing because you're going to have dispatches, cables, you're going to have instructions given. It's not as easy as just putting a file out and saying, here it is, because as I just explained, tradecraft and the techniques used to protect individuals is something that has gone on for generations. Most of the techniques, you may laugh at this, John, most of the techniques we use today were developed by, you want to know who developed most of our spying techniques that we use today?
I can only imagine. Who?
George Washington. George Washington. No, I'm not joking. He set up the system of pseudonyms, of cryptonyms, of numbers. There's a series of books written about this. Turn was a series done about Washington spies. So most of what we do to this day was created by the Continental Army, by George Washington, and is still used. So anyway, my point being is that they got to sort through all that. So just releasing it all is like you get a jumble of stuff. So I think that the government does owe us the information. They just need to explain it. They need to put it all out there and explain who is what within that mess.
I guess the easier way to ask it is, will it say in plain, clear writing, Lee Harvey Oswald did indeed not kill JFK?
I think we're going to come to find that he was a dupe, that he was the decoy. And I think that's easier to discern than who shot Kennedy, believe it or not.
Right.
I think they're always going to pin it on him. I'll never forget seeing that interview where they finally tell him what he's being held for, and that look of utter confusion, like, what? I mean, you can't fake that. It's like, what? It's like, no. So I think he was always going to be the dupe, and I don't think he knew he was going to be the dupe, but he was always going to be the dupe. So
right, and at the end of the day, it's like your word against his. They put you in a room with a gun in your hand, and it's like, I mean, the government's never did any kind of deception to us before. Now we know that they try to stage President Trump in Russiagate and 2 assassination attempts. Were they part of the government? I don't know. Maybe one day we'll find out. But I want to take that up on the other side of this quick break, and I also want to take up the 9/11 Commission because it's something you've worked very hard on, and it made your career take a turning point. So I want to take that up on the other side of this quick break because I think it's something very important. We're coming right back with Tony Shaffer, folks. Stay with us.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sale because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Folks, we're back. We're talking with Tony Shaffer. He's the president of Project Sentinel, and he's actually now a county commissioner. Congratulations, Tony Shaffer.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope you have as much fun as that job is worth. Comes with a big paycheck, so don't spend it all in one place.
It comes with virtually no paycheck, and we got sued the first week in office, so there you go. So
that means you're doing a hell of a job of it.
That's right.
That means you're doing something right, Tony. I want to turn to something that made your career take a turning point. And It was your role in blowing the whistle on 9/11. Everything we knew, the things that we weren't telling the American people, the things that we weren't telling our intel committee wasn't telling our own military and our leaders.
Yeah.
Give me your thoughts, Tony, about what happened on that day and the days that led up to it.
So I think a lot of us were babes in the woods. I'll just be blunt. So first off, our team the Able Danger team, we were like the movies. We were like way off the books. A couple of generals said, "Hey, let's put some people together in a black operation and let's let them go and see what they find." So we were left to our own devices, which means we weren't part of the larger intelligence infrastructure. We were Special Operations Command. We were doing this as a special operations mission. So we weren't talking to the intelligence community other than to pull information out.
Right.
So, John, we weren't supposed to find what we found. That's what I've come to conclude. And so when we figured out, because we were outside the system, that hey, there's terrorists here. They're looking to do no good. And oh, by the way, this is not a good idea. We should do something about it. And that's where it becomes surreal, because 6 months before 9/11, well, actually 7 months, eight months, the whole thing got shut down. They briefed the options. And again, this is Special Operations Command. They kill people for a living, John.
Yeah.
They briefed options to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Hugh Shelton, and then all of a sudden we're told, yeah, thank you, stand down. That's it. And so the next 8 months, we're trying to figure out, why are we told to stop? And then it happens.
Now, when was this? What month and year was this, Tony?
So January of 2001 was when Hugh Shelton was briefed on the Able Danger. These are the things we want to do to stop Al-Qaeda. And we're told, yeah, never mind, it's okay. And then obviously 9/11 happens on 9/11. And so 9/11, 2001. So that's what, and then after that, I go to the 9/11 Commission and just say, hey, this is what we were doing. And next thing you know, I'm targeted. Captain Scott Philpott is targeted, and we're made to look crazy. It's like, oh, they just want attention. It's like, no, we have good careers. We're having fun. We're just here to tell you what happened. And I think that we became, to quote Al Gore, an inconvenient truth to the larger cover-up, and that's what happened. So that's what happened in a nutshell. We knew the terrorists were here. We had options to take them out. We were told not to take them out, and then we were vilified for having come forward and told the 9/11 Commission we could have stopped the attacks. And I think more is to come. There's more specifics, John, that Kurt Weldon and I plan on getting out once we're authorized, because there's still 2 elements of Able Danger that were beyond top secret that I'm going to have to talk to Pentagon leadership about to be declassified. So I've already made that request.
That's, it's crazy to me that we even knew down to the granular level, Tony. I went to flight school.
Yeah.
And when I was told along the way, we knew that these guys were training to fly, that the planes would be used. It wasn't just they were going to go in and blow something up. It was that they were using planes to create these attacks. I hate to ask you this question because I hate to find out the answer. Do you think George Bush knew prior to September 11th?
Oh, yeah. I'm convinced at this point.
Hold on. But not that the attacks were coming, but where they were targeting and what was being used, these airplanes were being used to target.
So I don't know how specific, but yeah, I think the whole being in the classroom, being read to, the facial expressions, he knew. I'm convinced at this point, because you or I, John, we get told there's an attack. What's the first thing you do? It's like, excuse me, I got to go.
Yeah.
No. He sat there. That was theater, because I've been in situations where I'm in command. I'm a director. I'm in a chain of command where something happens. I stop. It's like excuse me, I've got to go.
No,
you don't sit there. You don't sit there and just. That was all theater. So to me, if you just take that as a premise, the other things you ask need to be items that we examine and have a second investigation to answer.
Now, is it just George Bush or someone like Donald Rumsfeld, his Secretary of Defense at the time? Is that
so? Look, Don and I became friends, and I don't think Don was in on it. I don't. I think Don was an honest man. I came to know him a little bit, and I've sat face to face with him several times, and he was the guy I blew the whistle against, by the way. And we became friends later in later years. And I told him we were sitting in the green room there at Fox. You and I saw each other at CPAC. I was there in the green room across the river it was like right there in DC, right there at the 400 North Capitol.
Right across from Union Station, yeah.
Right across from Union Station. And it was for, I think, the 2012 9/11 anniversary. And so we're sitting across from each other and we're talking. And I said, Mr. Secretary, there's something between us. And he looked at me and kind of smiled and says, yeah, Abel Danger. He remembered, John. He remembered.
Goodness.
Yeah. It's like, I get shivers thinking about this. He says, yeah, Abel Danger. And he looked at me and says, Tony, why is that? Why is that between us? And I sat there. I said, because you were lied to. And I went through and explained some of the stuff you and I went through in detail. I said, look, this is what we were doing. And this is what we learned. They lied to you. And he looked at me square in the eye and says, Tony, this wasn't the only thing I was lied to about.
Oh my goodness.
So Don then became one of my biggest defenders after that. He actually publicly said good things about me and tried to defend. So either he was a fabulous actor. And remember, he was the one Bush folk guy that didn't go against Trump out of the whole group back in the 2016 and 2020 cycle. Just saying. So
no, you're in a world of deranged people. And you know what? Lou Dobbs, yeah. I swear to you, Tony, and you knowing him longer than I have. I had the privilege of working with him every single day, but he had such a keen and acute sense for people. Everybody that I came into work with him and said, I like this person, he would explain to me why they were bad. And I'd say, you're crazy, old man. You don't know what you're talking about. And I'd raffle off every single one of them. And he would say, no. There was very few people I'd go to him and say, Lou, this is a good guy. And he'd agree with me on, because he knew he had such a keen sense. It was like a sense. And he knew who the bad actors were. But he always liked Donald Rumsfeld. And now I don't know why, because there were things that Lou knew that he never told me. I mean, the guy was a book of secrets. He died a book of secrets. If you told him something in confidence, he didn't tell anybody, not even his wife, who he told everything to. So by him, having that soft spot for Donald Rumsfeld, it made me wonder what Lou really knew, because Lou could not stand George W. Bush. He hated his guts. His father he liked, but he hated George W. Bush, was blackballed from his White House. What would George W. Bush's premise be for allowing this to happen in America? They went over to war in Iraq. They invaded Iraq. They didn't even take the oil. I mean, so what is the reasoning for allowing these wars to start?
He said it in one of his, I think his dad said it in a speech about the New World Order. I think George Bush believed in this utopian future where we were all one government. And by the way, it's not a left or right thing. A lot of folks on both sides of the aisle somehow think that a utopian one world government where everybody gets along and kumbaya. I think a lot of people believe in that, and it's folly. And so I think Bush believed in that. I think they believed that the standing down of the military did not serve us well. They needed a predicate to get us back going. I've said before, John, and I think Lou agreed with me, we didn't need the AUMF. We didn't need the authorized use of military force to go after the bad guys. We already had enough authorities. We just weren't permitted to do it. So I think there were a lot of things that were used, and I think the real power behind that was Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
So, just saying. So,
what's the reason though? What is the reason for invading Iraq? We know that's another thing we know, Tony. We know there's no weapons of mass destruction there. What is the reason for? It's like time and history always repeats itself, right? And we never learn our lessons. Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq. When will we learn our lessons? Number one. Number two, what was the rationale before, or it should be right
there was some other, well, this is the way I look at it. Since the end of the Cold War, there's had to be some level of conflict to justify the massive and pervasive military-industrial complex. Remember, Eisenhower warned us about this. And Eisenhower actually called it a military-industrial congressional complex. Congress plays a huge role in this. So remember, we've had the Gulf War, the stand down, kind of peace, the peace dividend, Clinton firing. By the way, Bill Clinton fired like 300,000 federal employees. Just saying, people forget, but he did. Anyway, and then we needed to have something to keep kind of the war machine going. 9/11 happens. Then we get bogged down in Afghanistan. we get bogged in Iraq. Those are 2 wars. And then, well, we start ending Afghanistan. We have Ukraine. Oh, Ukraine's the next big thing. There's always been something to keep this kind of banking industrial complex going. So I think there are people who are truly evil, who see us as a resource, not as a people under God. And I think they are very effective in manipulating governments to do certain things as they wish. So
I want to get your take on this, because I spoke with Russ Tice about this last week and over dinner, and then again on the show. The intel agencies, the 3-letter agencies, and the need for them to be audited, Tony. I was surprised to find out how many people between actual people on the payroll and then people who are government contractors, it's into the millions, right? Who are working at these, and that's just the main 3: the NSA, the CIA, the DIA. Now you go into all the other ones, the Army. I think there's like 16 or 17 of them in total. But we've got like millions and millions of people who are on the government payroll, and contractors are not cheap, Tony. They're worth a few $100, a few $100,000 a year. Why do we have so many? How many do we actually need? I mean, work.
Contractors before 9/11 were a few. You had SAIC and a few other kind of Beltway bandit things, and they were there, and they were primarily focused on how to work to augment technical issues with the government, like IT pokes and stuff like that. But after 9/11, that door was opened by Dick Cheney. Right. Halliburton became a huge contractor. I mean, I remember being in Afghanistan, and we had Halliburton cooks, KBR, Kellogg Brown and Root, a subsidiary of Halliburton. John, these guys, a cook, this is in 2001 dollars, a cook was making $85,000 to $95,000. This is in 2001 dollars. A cook. And it went up from there. So that door was opened, and every large corporation rushed in. Raytheon, General Dynamics, Boeing, everybody. And what happens is, like, each button is seat. Like, these guys may be pulling down $80,000 to $180,000, but the company gets another $100,000 for administrative above that. So each butt in a seat costs the company gets probably about $300,000, and you then control that. You can pay that employee within that range. So you can pay them like $80,000. You're banking a bunch. So that's why this has become so lucrative, and they create phony baloney jobs constantly. My ex-wife actually had a job that she was hired as part of a team, a small team. I don't remember the contractor's name. I think it was, I'll think of it in a second. They hired a team. Get this. They hired a team of people to analyze worker sentiment within National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. That's their job. And guess they hired 12 people. They hired 8 people to do the analysis, 4 to manage it, and then you had to have other administrators come in to do like graphics. And so the whole thing, this sentiment survey team, was costing the government $5 million a year.
Oh my goodness! For absolutely nothing.
And by the way, they never produced a report because they didn't really want to know about the sentiment. Oh, we don't want to know that. I'm just telling you how it works. So if you take that as a microcosm and you expand it out to every intelligence directorate, you've got billions that are being wasted. So that's why I have no problem of them going through. As a matter of fact, I've told a certain person who may be in charge of the Pentagon, if I came in, I would cut 25% of the intelligence community instantly across the board.
Yeah. So. You hear stories like that, Tony, and then you talk to people who are mad that Donald Trump's got Doge. I want to take one more quick break here, a short break, and come back and take up the Doge in our final segment and get your take on that, about the cutting that needs to be done. We'll come right back with Tony Shaffer. He's the president of Project Sentinel. He's also a newly admitted county commissioner. We're coming right back, folks. Stay with us.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Folks, we're back with the great Tony Shaffer. He's the president of Project Sentinel. He's actually a new county commissioner. So congratulations once again to Tony.
Thank you, John.
He mentioned to us in the last segment he's already getting sued, so we know he's doing a hell of a
That's right.
job.
The first week, it's like, here's your suit, sir.
And no, not a brand new nice Canali or
No, not at all.
suit
Not
either. It's a lawsuit.
Yeah, not at all.
Oh boy. Speaking of lawsuits, Doge, Elon Musk's committee. Tony, I find myself arguing with people time and time again. Nobody elected Elon Musk. Well, nobody elected Valerie Jarrett in the first Obama administration or the second.
Yeah.
Nobody elected Obama a third term when you got Biden in there and he's running the damn show.
Yeah.
You've got the world's smartest man. You've got the world's richest man, in my opinion. He's got top-level security clearances, Tony. He's making rockets to send up to the space station and do all types of things. He's got high-level security clearances. If they don't want Elon Musk running a program like this, Tony, is there anyone you can think of that is more qualified than him, perhaps?
No. And plus, he's fearless. He doesn't care. He's like you say, he's rich. He's been successful. Apparently, he gets around and sleeps with interesting women. Just saying. If it's a bad thing, I think it's kind of cool. And so he doesn't care. He is kind of a real-life Tony Stark in a good way. And so I think it's great. And so I am all for him, Elon Musk, identifying all the waste he can find. And I have no problem with him poking the bureaucracy to get him to pay attention. And it's like, I've heard all this drama about these emails. John, if you or I got an email saying, can you tell me five things you did last week? Sure.
We can tell you 30.
Like, there you go. I'm done. But this was all about just it's like a sounder. It's like a ping underwater. It's like trying to figure out who responds. That's all it was. Like, people are reading too much into this. Like, he's just trying to figure out who's still, paying attention or not, and then going from there. So people freaking out. And yeah, I'm sorry. The president was elected. The president has the right to hire special government employees, which Musk has. And to your point, John, he's got a clearance that was given him by the Biden administration. Yeah. So it's insane that they're crying so much about trying to stop him from finding waste within our government.
The mistake I think he made is he gave them like a few days to do it. I would have sent it to them.
Yeah.
I would have sent it to every employee who was working that day. I would have coordinated. And you have until 5 p.m. to answer today. I mean, if you're a government employee, you should be checking your email. I get an email. It comes up on my phone, Tony, and I answer right away. It's what it is.
Send it on a Thursday. Send it Thursday, close of business. Telling them by Friday, close of business. Tell me what you did this week. That's it. Tell me 5 things you did.
Yeah. It's very simple to me, Tony. If someone, like you said, someone has 5 things to do, sure. I mean, that's the easiest thing I think I've been asked this week.
Yeah.
But what to do? The crazy thing is the American people. I have to be completely honest with you. I thought polling would have shown. You and I were both with Mark Mitchell the other day at CPAC.
I love Mark. Great guy.
He's one of the most brilliant pollsters, if not the most brilliant pollster.
Absolutely.
In all of polling, and his polling shows overwhelmingly. And this is where I'm so surprised. I thought the American people would have maybe said, all right, enough of Elon Musk, enough of this stuff, enough of the deportations. Tony, we're seeing some of the highest numbers, and it's not just from Rasmussen.
Exactly.
Polling out this week from Harvard Harris, who's far, far left-leaning. 81% of these folks say they support deportations of anyone who are here illegally and committed crimes. 92% of Republicans, 74% independents, and 62% of Democrats in that poll. When asked, they agree with undertaking a full-scale effort to find and eliminate fraud and waste in the government expenditures. 76% across the board say they support it. Once again, 90% Republican, 74 independent, 62 Democrat supported. Okay, so it's not just like, he's going out here and doing. The other thing is he told us everything he was going to do, Tony. Like, he'd be the worst liar in the world. What were they going to do?
To your point, well, that's the thing. It's like two things I think are apparent. First, the Democrats had controlled the narrative so effectively across the board. I think they were able to affect polling big time. And I think Mark Mitchell, to your point, he saw through it. He knew what was going on. And I think now that people are kind of allowed to be out there and telling what they really think, people do want Donald Trump to fulfill his promises. I think the Democrats cheated this last election. I just don't think they had any effect because it was such an overwhelming number. And I think the percentages were way higher. And I think Mark would say something similar if he were asked. But I think that's what's going on. It's like people are allowed to be honest now, and they're saying, yeah, we want these people out of here. We like what Trump's doing. I think it's only going to continue to. I think Trump's numbers are going to continue to improve.
Yeah, to your point about Mark outsmarting it, after you joined us the other night and you left us hanging. Mark and the other fellow I met who runs quantum polling, we're sitting there talking to each other, explaining how they do it. I always thought you just put out a damn poll, people answer, Tony, and here's the answers. There's all types of weighting. There's all types of going back and looking at exit polling and underreporting minorities, overreporting women. And it was the craziest thing. I give these guys a lot more credit than it's worth.
It's an art.
It really is truly crazy. You had mentioned election stealing. Someone completely different than these two fellas actually had brought up to me at CPAC that Tony Shaffer is working on some sort of election fraud. They didn't specify it was for this election or if it was 2020. Is there anything you can tell us that you're working on?
Yeah, no, the same thing. Mark Mitchell and Rasmussen's really taken the lead. They've been trying to get to the bottom of the U.S. Postal Service's role in moving ballots as part of the 2020 election, and that's Jesse Morgan and the pallet of ballots issue. It's nothing new. As a matter of fact, Lou had him on.
Yeah,
Lou had Jesse Morgan on. So essentially, Jesse Morgan. I spoke with Jesse about 6 months ago. Jesse's still around. He's not changed his tune. Nobody that I know on that investigation, to include me, being fired by Bill Barr, has changed our tune. We all believe that there were that at least one, probably three trailers of curated ballots, 53-foot trailers, were moved from Bethpage, New York, into central Pennsylvania, staged to go into Philadelphia for counting. And I do believe that happened in 2020. So.
You mentioned Bill Barr, and it's sort of interesting. Before this election, we saw him on Martha McCallum's show a lot. We saw him on Fox News a lot. Neil Cavuto, Brett Baer. Notice those three rhinos, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah. You didn't see him on Newsmax, by the way, or OAN.
No,
right? Frequently see you, but where has he gone? He's sort of in hiding.
Look, I think there was a conspiracy. It wasn't just Adam Schiff. Was that his name? Schiff?
Shifty Schiff, yep.
And it was some of the Democrats with help from some of the Republicans. And I think Bill Barr, Jim Mattis, John Kelly, John Bolton, there were a number of folks who crossed the line. And one of those is Bill Barr. So I think we're going to come to find that Bill was in on whatever they pulled. And I think that's why when I and others got close to the truth, we had to be gotten rid of. And we're public. I was a public figure, so you can't just go out and shoot me. I mean, I guess you could, but it would draw more.
Trying to kill Trump twice, Tony.
Yeah. So I think that's why. And I think when Pam gets in, when Cash gets in, I'd like to believe they're going to do some very serious investigations. I think a lot of people like Bill are going to be seeing some pretty bad things come their way. So
one of the other folks who I saw over the last week was John Solomon, Just the News, a man who was very instrumental with Lou, and the first administration about Russiagate and declassifying those documents. Trump, in one of his last acts, this was like the 11th hour, Tony. I don't know if you know the story, but Lou and John were in with President Trump. on the 11th hour on like January 19th of 2020 or 2021, I guess it was, on releasing the Russiagate documents. And I saw John the other day, and I said, John, whatever happened with that? Trump said to you that day, these documents are declassified. Mark Meadows was supposed to turn them over to John Solomon, and he never got them. Right. So when I saw John the other day, I said, John, what's going on? Are we finally getting these documents? And John said that, because I told him, I was like, you've been very quiet lately. He said that's going to end coming this week. So I've got John on the show on Friday, and I can't wait to see what's going on. But, I mean, do you think we finally get to the bottom of Russiagate? Do you think we finally get to the bottom of Trump, all that stuff that went on in 2020?
Yeah, I think we do. I think we're going to see that there was a conspiracy by both sides, Democrats and Republicans, to go after President Trump. I believe, and I can't give details yet because I have to get some other folks to agree for me to release. There were several individuals who stood in the way of the final coup against President Trump. There was a coup attempt in 2018. And I think there was some very courageous people who were Democrats, by the way, not Republicans, who stood in the way of that and said, basically, I can't do this. It's if you ever saw the movie 7 Days in May, it's the reverse. It's like the reverse image of that. So,
you've got me. You said hair standing up. You just made the hair on my back of my neck stand up, because now you've got me thinking and wondering. I mean,
it almost happened. Yeah,
this is absolutely insane. Tony, you've been around longer than I have, not much longer, just a few weeks, a few months, maybe a year longer than me on this planet. I mean, did you ever imagine, Tony, that the world would come to this? I mean, that you would see a coup against the president. I mean, this literally, Lou is, I tell Lou's wife all the time. I mean, Lou went peacefully at the right time. With all this stuff that's going to come out now, I think would have sent Lou spiraling, because he witnessed it firsthand. And, you were victims of it. He was victims of it. And we watched it all, lawfare and lawsuits and all this crazy stuff. I mean, did you ever imagine that your life would come to this?
No. I wish Lou could see some of the stuff. And a good friend of mine, Jerry Doyle, who was radio talk show guy. Jerry and I were close friends. Jerry passed prematurely, and I wish these guys could see, because they were all fighting for the truth to get it out. And I know Lou, in his very mysterious, almost Karnak-like ways, had these magical, almost mystical ways of knowing things. I always appreciated his ability to see through things, and I think he understood what was coming. And I think we're going to see a lot of things that he helped set in motion come true. So I look forward to that. So,
Tony, he told me so many times when I'd ask him questions, he wouldn't answer. And like I said, he took secrets to the grave with him, Tony, that were probably insane. And there were so many questions I'd ask him, and he'd say, you know what, one day I'll tell you. One day I'll let you know. One day I'll tell you. And there were so many things that he didn't tell me that we left on there. So one day I'll get to see him again, and he'll tell me. Before we wrap up, Tony, I want to get your take on a little bit of foreign policy. Ukraine. Sure. I've said as far back as July on this show, one day we're going to see Zelensky get on a plane and disappear with duffel bags, and we're never going to see him again. It turns out just last week, the White House said maybe it's time for you to go to France and disappear. He now all of a sudden doesn't want to end this war. And I think it shows why. The money is drying up, and he's got to figure out who the hell he's going to go pull on their pants like to get another dollar. And Putin is discussing with Xi Jinping how to end this thing and ceasefires, which means he's probably sincere about ending it. And I mean, if you look at it, Tony, he has really no reason to end it. If he wants to keep fighting on, he's eventually going to take all of Ukraine if that's what he wants. And that's just
well, he doesn't want it. He doesn't want a rump Ukraine. No. So we've been lied to from the beginning. No, John, we've been lied to from the beginning. It was always about the Donbass and those areas. It was always about that. This whole Millie-driven narrative that, we helped Ukraine push Russians out of Kiev and protected it. No, the Russians were trying to go after Kiev to put pressure on Zelensky to negotiate. They didn't want all of Ukraine. They wanted what they got. And by the way, they're in the process of removing Ukrainian forces from the Donbass and the other provinces. They're doing, it's like they're winning. So to your point, they don't have to really stop because they're going to win. That's a fait accompli. What is worrying Zelensky is that the money did dry up. We're no longer paying for civil servants to have plays put on at their National Puppet Theater, or sending people to Belgium to learn how to use chocolate as a sex toy. I mean, those are all the things we were funding through USAID. And oh, by the way, USAID was funding the CIA efforts to create the Maidan, the 2014 Maidan revolution. We did that. That's why Trump is saying, they were provoked, because Victoria Nuland and those folks basically were part of the revolution to overthrow the duly elected government. And so now Zelensky comes in. Zelensky's the bag man for all of the Democrats. He's been the guy washing all the money. It's like he was honest about, they sent us 180 billion, but we only got like 80. It's like, it's all been washed. And it's all ending. It's all ending. So,
it's the only truth that man has ever told. So what do you think timeline wise? Do you think this thing wraps up in the next few weeks, months? Someone told me today, some idiot Democrat said, we're going to start speaking Russian here in America. You better learn. And I said, we're probably going to speak Spanish before we speak Russian. That's just the truth of the matter with how many illegals we have in this country who don't even speak English. Do you think
if it was up to Democrats? If it was up to Democrats, we'd all be speaking Esperanto. Just saying. So.
But it's crazy. So, do you think this thing gets wrapped up in the next weeks, months? Either way you look at it, Donald Trump's going to be called a Putin puppet. I can't even say it because when do you think
John? They're reestablishing a framework similar to the Budapest Accords of 1994. If you remember, 94. There was a framework that created Ukraine and basically kind of created the other stands.
Right.
Tajikistan, that was all done. And there was an agreement that NATO wouldn't move east. Well, it did. So it is what it is. So I think, first off, they're trying to reestablish an accord that both sides can live with. That's why they're talking in Riyadh. That's why it's only Russia and America. Remember, you didn't have a NATO leader sitting at the table when Gorbachev and Reagan ended the Cold War, right? I mean, they came to an agreement. I know it happened. The Berlin Wall fell in '89 under Bush, but the framework that was created to end things was done without NATO. Just saying. So they're doing the same thing right now. And then within the context of that, Ukraine. I think Ukraine's going to end within 3 weeks. I think by, the third week of March, you're going to see a framework that would probably be implemented on the 1st of April. I think 1 April is going to be the target date for formally ending the war.
You just mentioned NATO, and I haven't even got to NATO. Tony, the funny thing is we may be out of NATO sooner than Ukraine ever gets into NATO. So I don't know what the hell they're wanting to be in for so bad for.
Well, J.D. Vance correctly identified the issue. Their values are no longer our values. Right. I mean, that speech, my goodness, it's like watching an episode of Sprockets on Saturday Night Live, seeing that German leader crying on stage because he was talked to in a severe manner, outlining the fact that the Germans are essentially the Fourth Reich and putting people in jail because of speech. So we do not share the European values. We don't share the British values of going after people for memes. We don't share the German values for going after people and putting them in jail and taking their phone because they retweet stuff.
Yeah.
So JD Vance said we're not on the same sheet, and if we're not on the same sheet, that means 70% of NATO's budget goes away. That's us.
Right.
Just saying.
Donald Trump puts things so eloquent and simple, Tony, and I think he does it for the idiots, the people who don't really understand how things work. And he couldn't have put it any easier. That we don't need NATO. We have a big, giant body of water in between us and Europe. You guys need us. We don't need you. And, it's very simple. For the Democrats who come at me on this whole thing with Russia and Ukraine, I put it in stupid form for them. I say, how would you like it if your neighbors started putting machine guns on the back of their house and they faced it at the back of your house? What would you do about it? And that's I think the simplest way to put it for the dumb people. Tony, where can people follow you? Where can they watch your show? Where can they get more of Tony Shaffer?
So in the mornings, Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, I'm the semi-permanent host, the semi-permanent temporary host of Wake Up Patriots, Ed Henry's Wake Up Patriots. I host that on Rumble from 9 to 10. It's live with people can chat with us. It's a lot of fun. We just had Saul Mercurgliano on today talking about strategy from What's Up with Shipping. We have celebrities come on. Susan Olsen from the Brady Bunch, Cherie Curry from the Runaways, and we have a variety of folks. Both we had Andy Biggs on before. We have a variety of folks come on with us. Anyway, so they can check that out Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Otherwise, go check us out at Project Sentinel, projectsentinel.com, and of course on Twitter. Things are always interesting, or X at these days, as they call it. The kids call it X. So,
Give them your Twitter handle, because I can never find you on Twitter myself.
T-Spooky.
It's got like an underscore after every letter.
It is because I couldn't have the one I wanted, so I got the one. There we go. You guys can see that.
T-Spooky, folks. T underscore.
Yeah.
It's an underscore after every letter. T-Spooky.
Yeah.
Go ahead and give Tony a follow. I was giving Mark Mitchell a shit about his handler. It was like Mark underscore R underscore Mitchell. And I've got Mark to change his Twitter. His Twitter new handle is Honest Polster. I said that works a little bit better.
That's good. Well, he is. He's a great guy. I like Mark a lot. He's been on Wake Up Patriots with us too.
Yeah.
So.
You got Mark to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning. He's up till about 3. Sometimes me and him are texting until like 3, 4 o'clock. So he must like you.
No, I'm a night owl too. I love staying up late, but I got to get up early and do stuff then. So great. Well, John, thanks for having me. It's great to have our conversation. I appreciate the time.
Tony, come back soon, please.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for joining us today here on the Great America Show, folks. We hope to see you back here tomorrow for the Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. See you back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. See you tomorrow.